Hey guys, welcome to Juicy Tea, where I read out the best stories on Reddit, so you don't have to. The funny, the shocking, the satisfyingly juicy. Today we're looking back at your favourite Am I the A-hole stories from this year. Am I the A-hole for bringing a much older guy to Easter dinner after my dad left my mum for someone close to my age? Posted by Adorable Cost 806. I'm an 18-year-old female, and when I was 15, I got into a boarding school abroad and moved out. When I was 12, my dad, 45 male, cheated on my mum, 43 female, with a woman who was 20 at the time. They ended up divorcing, and he's been with her ever since. She's only a few years older than me, and for the past few years, she's been at every family holiday. She's clearly only after his money, but he's too stupid and stubborn to understand. Nah, he gets it, he just doesn't care. Well, this Easter, I flew back home and asked a friend of mine, 38 male, to come with me and pretend to be my boyfriend just for a few days. After dinner, my dad pulled me aside and told me that he felt uncomfortable with the situation. I told him that I didn't do anything wrong and that after him, love has no age. Yeah, he taught you this. He told me that I ruined everyone's Easter by being so selfish and bringing someone his age to dinner. Oh please, he's brought someone her age to every holiday. Now I'm getting messages from a few relatives saying that I should apologise to my dad and break up with my boyfriend. Why? Is there something wrong with age gaps? I haven't responded. I don't think I'm in the wrong because he's made my life uncomfortable since the moment he cheated on my mum. Am I the a-hole? Yeah, no sh**. He's just a massive hypocrite. Edit. I met my friend in a book club when I moved to the US. I'm from Europe, and he's been a great father figure to me, to be honest. Are you sure he feels that way about you? When I had no friends there, he would buy me dinner and actually spend time with me. And he's recently divorced from his high school sweetheart, so he would have spent Easter alone anyway. Therefore, I decided to take him with me and show him around. I wonder if he's gonna start suggesting they, make out, just for the act. For reference, I didn't say half the bad things my dad did, or the whole story. It would have taken way too long. But trust me, cheating isn't the only thing he did. I know this is immature, people. I know it's extremely immature of me. But I wanted to show him how it feels. I plan to invite him to Christmas too. Oh, I'm on board with these petty games. Maybe even start calling your dad Daddy and act all oblivious to him being uncomfortable. Look forward to the Christmas update. Am I the a-hole for refusing to give my dad my inheritance, even though he says he needs it more? Posted by Active Bad Girl. Okay, so I, 28 female, need to know if I'm out of line here, because my family's making me feel like I'm the worst person alive right now. So, for context, my mum passed away when I was 18. She was the best, like the only person who really cared about me. My dad, 55 male, was around, but honestly, he wasn't great. He cheated on my mum when I was 13, and while she stayed for my sake, I never forgave him. He moved in with his affair partner like a month after the divorce, and she's been his main focus ever since. Anyway, my mum didn't have much, but she left me a small inheritance. Nothing huge, like around $50,000, but it was everything she had. Her will was super clear, it was for me to build my future. She knew how much I wanted to go to art school, but couldn't afford it back then. I ended up working my way through school, so kept the money in savings, planning to use it for a house or a small business someday. Fast forward to now. I'm finally in a stable place, about to start looking at houses with my partner, 29 male, and suddenly my dad pops up out of nowhere. He's never really asked me for anything before, or been around, but now he's saying he needs help. Apparently his wife got into debt from gambling, and now they're at risk of losing their house. He says it's temporary, and that he'll pay me back, but I know that is BS. He's never been good with money. And his wife, let's just say that she doesn't exactly scream responsibility. I told him no, that this money is from my mum and she wanted it for me. He got all defensive, saying she'd want me to help the family and that I'm being selfish for hoarding money that I don't even need right now. Like, are you kidding me? Now my dad's side of the family is all up in my business, saying I should be the bigger person and help him out in his time of need. My aunt even called to say that I'm disrespecting his role as my father. What role? The man barely raised me. Like, I do feel bad because, yeah, it's a lot of money, and I guess they could lose their house. But at the same time, why is it my responsibility to bail them out when they've done absolutely nothing for me? My mum trusted me with this money, and I feel like giving it to him would just be spitting on her memory. Am I the a-hole for saying no? No, but you would be if you caved. You're right, giving that money to your mum's cheating ex to spend on his affair partner would basically be like spitting on her grave. Honour your mum by using that money to live your best life. I'm sure she'd be proud of you for getting yourself through school, and for saving that money to build a good life for yourself. Am I the a-hole for wanting to call off my wedding because my fiance's stepmother keeps insisting we're siblings? So I, 23 female, am engaged to my fiance, Daniel, 24 male. He's the son of a very wealthy businessman, and to be honest, I come from a much more humble background. We met a few years ago at a mutual friend's party and hit it off immediately. We have a ton in common, same sense of humour, similar values. We're both super family orientated and have the same weird taste in music. We even share similar quirks and habits that make it seem like we've known each other forever. Basically, we just click. Here's where the problem starts. Daniel's father remarried a few years ago to a woman named Valerie. She's in her mid-40s and, well, let's just say she's not the nicest person. She's always been kind of cold to me, but I didn't think much of it. A little passive-aggressive here and there, but nothing crazy. However, over the last few months, things have started getting out of hand. Valerie started making these strange comments, usually when we're alone or in private settings. She has started implying that Daniel and I are too close to be fiancés. The first time she said it, I laughed it off, thinking it was some kind of weird joke. But then it kept happening. She started pushing the idea that Daniel and I are not just fiancé and fiancé, but rather brother and sister, in some kind of spiritual or emotional sense. She kept saying things like, "It's just like the way real siblings can talk for hours and hours about nothing," or "You two look so much alike, I'm surprised you haven't figured out you're actually related." I thought she was just being bizarre, but it kept escalating. At one point, she showed up to one of our family gatherings with this family tree thing that supposedly proves that Daniel and I could be distant cousins. The family laughed it off, but the whole thing left me feeling unsettled. I'm not sure why she's so obsessed with this narrative, but she even started calling us the twins in front of other people, which made me feel super uncomfortable. I've talked to Daniel about it a few times, and he says I'm overthinking it, that Valerie is just trying to get under my skin. But at this point, I'm not so sure. I feel like Valerie is intentionally trying to paint us as siblings to make me uncomfortable and to undermine our relationship. It's really starting to mess with my head. We're supposed to get married in a few months, but now I'm seriously considering calling it off. I don't know if I can marry into a family that has this kind of weird toxic dynamic. I don't want to feel like part of this twisted narrative that's being forced on us. Daniel says I'm letting Valerie win by even thinking about this, but it's messing with my head so much that I don't know if I can go through with it. So, am I the a-hole for thinking about calling off the wedding because of Valerie's insistence that Daniel and I are siblings? Should I brush it off like Daniel wants? Or is this a sign that something deeper is wrong here? Edit, just to clarify, we're definitely not siblings, or related in any way, shape or form. Valerie has no evidence or reason to believe this. It's all just her weird fixation. Also, Daniel and I are both adamant about not being related in any way. We've been to family gatherings, and no one in the family has mentioned this before. Valerie is definitely the only one who keeps pushing this narrative. Edit. For those who are saying that I shouldn't let this ruin my marriage, something that I forgot to add in this post was that she brings this up constantly in family group chats, social situations, even in front of children in this family. In public, when she brings this up, me and my fiance get weird looks, and even the children in the family have started asking if Daniel and I are actually brother and sister. And to have to explain to a child that it's just the family's sense of humour just doesn't cut it. I've tried avoiding her, but Daniel's father claims it's me being sensitive and cruel. But I've actually lost sleep over this. Daniel told me a few days ago to just ignore it, it's just a funny joke. But when you become the butt of the joke, it's not funny anymore. His mother-in-law even met my family and questioned them about whether they had any distant family when we were looking at my wedding dresses. And to me, that's where it went too far. I love my fiance with every fibre of my being, but he isn't defending me at all. Even when I tell them that suggesting that we could be in an incestuous relationship makes me uncomfortable. I feel completely alone on this, and I don't want to think about ruining our soon-to-be marriage, but I have to consider it. Will I ultimately choose that? No. But I don't know if I want to be with someone who completely undermines my feelings for the sake of his mother-in-law, who ultimately doesn't have his nor my best interests at heart. Edit. A lot of you have a point. I don't think my fiance is a red flag though. I'm assuming this is just how he and his family joke with each other. And since I'm not really the joking type, maybe I just don't understand it. I've tried cutting off mother-in-law, but my fiance and his father convinced me not to. So it feels like I simply can't win in this situation. I texted my fiance about this post and the comments, and he told me if I bring it up again, he'll just remove me from the family group chat entirely. I feel as though he's mad at me, which maybe I overreacted, but I'm not really the confrontational type and he knows that, and it's his family. I'm his soon-to-be wife and he should be understanding of that, and of my boundaries, but he shuts me down each time, and I kind of feel like the a-hole now for making such a big deal about it. He wants me to apologise to his family for the sake of peace, and to just go along with it in the name of good fun. But doing that makes me feel like I'm pushing aside my own feelings for some weird joke mother-in-law made. Should I apologise or should I stand my ground? It feels like the latter to me. Why should you be made uncomfortable for someone else's fun? That's literally how bullying works. I really like this suggestion down in the comments. Confident Baker says, whenever she starts talking like this, look really uncomfortable. Look away and then loudly say, Valerie, I've asked you repeatedly to not talk to me about your incest fetish. It makes me and everyone else really uncomfortable. And then walk away really quickly while looking behind you to make sure she isn't following you. She'll look like a psycho no matter what she does or says after that. Am I the a-hole for refusing to share my bonus with my fiance's family? Post by BC420. I work in tech and had a fantastic year at my job. I recently received a significant end-of-year bonus, $50,000, and I was thrilled. I've been saving for years to buy a house, and this bonus is going directly into my house fund. My fiance knows this and was initially very supportive. But then she dropped this bomb on me. She asked if I could spare $25,000 of my bonus, so half, to help her parents pay off their mortgage. What? That is nuts! You'll need that money for the down payment for the house. And even if you did have an extra $25K, it could go towards the debt, or like an emergency fund in case you lose your job and can't make mortgage repayments. If they only have $25,000 of their mortgage, they're in a way better financial position than you are. Hey, maybe they should pull some of that equity from their home to help their daughter fund her half of the down payment, since family helps family. Apparently, her parents have been struggling financially, and she feels it's only fair, since we're gonna be married, and they're gonna be my family too. How the hell is that fair? They didn't raise you, why isn't she helping them? I said no. I've worked extremely hard for this money, and while I feel for her parents, I don't think it's my responsibility to bail them out, especially when I've never been directly asked by them. Her response? She called me selfish and accused me of not caring about her family. She then brought up how parents have sacrificed so much for her, and it's the least I could do. No, it's the least she could do. They didn't sacrifice for him. She's been cold to me ever since. She's also told her parents about my bonus, without my permission. And now I'm getting guilt tripped by them too. They haven't outright asked for the money, but they've made several comments about how lucky I am to have the extra cash and how some people just don't get that kind of opportunity. What extra cash? You're facing a massive debt. They already have their home. When I mentioned that I plan to use the money to help secure our future with a house, my fiance said, "What future? You're already showing that you don't care about the people that matter to me." Cool, take that and run with it. I don't think I should have to justify how I use my bonus. But now, even my own friends are split on whether I'm being reasonable or stingy. Am I the a-hole? The first comment down here just says, run. Am I the a-hole for snapping at my wife and calling her crazy because she wants to take a paternity test for my nephew? Post by throwaway. My wife and I have been married for 10 years and together for 14. We're child-free. I also have a nephew who's currently 13, and I'm not gonna lie, he looks a lot like me and has a lot of the same facial features as me. I'm really proud of him, and we have a close bond. I've played a father-like role in his life since he was a kid. He has a deadbeat father, and my sister divorced him a long time ago. A few of my family members have made comments about how much my nephew looks like me, and while I initially thought it was wholesome, my wife, for some reason, has become very insecure and started getting doubts. She started questioning why I need to play such a prominent role in my nephew's life, why my nephew has autism, etc. The insinuations just became weird, and it made me uncomfortable. I do agree that my sister's dry humour has played some part in my wife's insecurities. During family gatherings, my sister jokes a lot about how wholesome it is that her son looks just like me, and that she couldn't be happier. It's obviously a joke, but I spoke to my sister and asked if she could tone it down a bit because it was making my wife a bit crazy. Yeah, he has your genes because you're related, not because you effed your sister. What? If those comments about how you look similar are the only reason she's suspicious, then that's actually crazy. However, last night, my wife asked if I could take a paternity test just for a peace of mind. That's when I finally snapped and called her crazy and that marrying her was the biggest mistake of my life. Whoa. I did immediately regret saying that because I meant none of it. My wife is the love of my life. But my wife got quiet and started crying shortly after, and I had to console her. Was I the a-hole? Yeah, you absolutely were. I was on your side with the whole accusing you of sleeping with your sister stuff. Right up until you said that marrying her was the biggest mistake of your life. Yikes! You can't just take words like that back. It's like dropping the D word. Update. I've agreed to take the test, but only under certain conditions. I understand that my wife is being paranoid and delusional, but I want to take the test just to ease whatever irrational fears she has. Sometimes these fears have no logic, and I too have had irrational fears before. I spoke to my sister about it today, and she was obviously pretty angry with my wife. However, my sister and I discussed it at length, and she agreed to take the test, under certain conditions. I spoke to my wife after and told her that I would take the test, which my wife was very happy about, and then I told her the conditions. The first condition being that she had to stop these insinuations immediately. My wife immediately agreed to it. The second condition being that there was never going to be any more arguments on me spending time with my sister and nephew. My wife and I have had some arguments over the years where she asked why I spend so much time at their house. My wife agreed to the condition, although she took some time to think about it. I'm curious how much time we're talking about and if he spends the night, cause if it's like a weekly thing and he does spend the night, then maybe her fears weren't so irrational after all. Or maybe I've just spent way too much time on Reddit. The third and final condition was that I had the liberty to go on vacations with my sister and my nephew without my wife being there. I told my wife up front that my sister doesn't want her to come on these vacations anymore. My wife was a bit more hesitant on this, but she ultimately agreed to it. Update 2. My wife caught me in bed with my sister. Just kidding, but I totally had you going there for a second, didn't I? Knowing Reddit, I actually wouldn't even be that surprised. Am I the a-hole for leaving a family gathering and taking the cake with me after getting my feelings hurt? Post by Def's Not a Rich Bitch. I, 27 female, hit 1 year sober from alcohol at the beginning of the year. This was a huge accomplishment for me. It was bigger than me finishing college. I told my family that the next time we were together for a family dinner, I had something to celebrate. This all happened at my mother's. The kids were playing and the adults were hanging out. I took the moment to share that I'd reached 1 year sober and how good I felt about it. They went with, "Oh, that's what you're talking about? And has it been a year already?" I'm embarrassed to admit, but I hope that someone would say that they're proud of me. My brother-in-law Steve looked at my sister and they both said, "Well," at the same time. And she said, "Since we're all here, niece just got into a specific gymnastics thing. It's been a long road, but she did it." Steve popped some wine they'd brought and started giving everyone a glass. He made eye contact with me and his face fell. I had this gnawing feeling, so I got up from the table and took a walk. I tried to get through the moment mentally so I could be present for my niece to celebrate her success. But when I got back to the house, my sister asked me why I left without saying anything. I said I just needed a minute for myself. She looked at me funny and said, "Okay." I said I'd shared something I'm really proud of and she just bulldozed over it. My mum put her hand up and asked me what my news was. I said that I'd told them I'd hit 1 year sober. Mum said my generation always wanted praise for doing the bare minimum, that wasn't an accomplishment, it was just what I needed to do, like graduating high school. Oh jeez. OP, I'm proud of you. You made it through an entire year without drinking with that family? That's one hell of an accomplishment. I tried to make it through dinner, but I found myself just not in the mood anymore. I decided to go home. Here's the thing I'm being called an a-hole for. I'd brought a small berry cake, my favourite, to share after dinner. It was the thing I decided I'd earned. The kids had definitely seen it. On my way out, I decided to take it home with me. I guess when they realised the cake wasn't in the garage fridge anymore, my sister called to ask me why I took it. I said because it was my cake to celebrate my accomplishment. She said word for word, "Are you effing serious? Oh my god, Emma, grow up! You're such an effing baby!" My mum later texted me directly to tell me just how disappointed she was that I threw a tantrum because my niece got more attention than me. I don't think her read of what happened is right, but that's why I'm asking you guys. Am I the a-hole because I took home the cake in the end? Was that really childish of me, considering the kids saw it and then didn't get any? As I was putting on my shoes to leave, Steve found me and directly apologised and said that he was completely oblivious in the moment. I know he didn't do anything intentionally to hurt me. Not the a-hole. If they can't celebrate with you, then they don't get to eat your cake. Oh my god, people are pointing out something that I didn't even notice down in the comments. They gave everyone wine to celebrate, which automatically excludes OP, as she's alcohol sober. Okay, seriously? I'm starting to see why you had a problem to begin with. Might be worth giving yourself some space from them for a while, and see if your mental health improves. Am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend I have every right to defend my home after someone started kicking my door in? Post by Fallen Wraith. I, 27 male, and my girlfriend, 26 female, have been together for about 2 years. I'm a black man raised in the inner city, and she's a white girl from the suburbs. We grew up different, and normally that's okay. But last week, someone tried to break into my house, and it started causing problems. I'm taking care of my mother now that she's getting up there in age. She just had surgery on her legs and cannot walk. I need to stress this. She physically cannot support herself, so I'm doing everything for her. Her bedroom is in the back of the house, right next to the back door that leads to the porch. At 2 AM last Wednesday, my mother calls me scared, saying someone's trying to break into the house, and she can hear them banging on the back door. My girlfriend was staying with me in my bedroom when I got the call. I jumped up, grabbed my gun, and ran to the back and started yelling for whoever was out there to get away, because they were still banging on the door when I got there. Things got quiet, so I checked the camera on the porch, and I saw them standing there. It was 3 people, and one of them said to keep going. It doesn't matter. So I used the speaker on my camera to say, "I have a weapon, it's loaded, and if you kick that door one more time, I will shoot." My girlfriend is behind me at that point, screaming not to shoot them and that it isn't worth it. The 3 people on the porch don't move, so I put my phone down, cock my weapon, and say, I'm going to count to 3, and if you're not gone by the time I get to 3, I'm firing. As soon as I counted 1, they ran away. My girlfriend was screaming at me that there's never a reason to threaten to shoot someone, ever! I told her that we're not having this conversation right now, and that we need to call the police. Yes, I should have done that earlier, but I was just too worried about my mother to think about it. The police get called. They come out and see shoe prints on my fence, and on the back door from where they were kicking, and start paroling the area, but don't find them. When the police leave, my girlfriend starts yelling at me and saying she can't believe that I'd be willing to shoot someone just because they kicked my door. I told her that it isn't about the house. It's about the fact that my mother is lying helpless in bed just a few feet away from the door, and they could have done anything. Stole things, killed her, raped her, a combination? I have no idea, and I wasn't taking any chances. She says that there's never a reason to hurt or kill someone ever, because violence isn't the answer. It just makes you like the person you're hurting. I told her that the only reason she thinks violence isn't the answer is because she's never had someone try to physically harm her before. And I'm not apologizing for what I did because I had every right to defend myself, my home, my mother, and her. She's been angry with me ever since and will barely even speak to me. I'm trying to consider her perspective, I really am, but I'm not going to give up my ability to defend myself just because she doesn't believe violence will ever be necessary. Am I the a-hole? I just want to point out that you actually stopped the violence with the threat of violence. If you'd done things her way, there would have been actual violence. I'd ask her what she thinks is worse, actual violence or the threat of violence. Violence is sometimes 100% the answer, if it de-escalates the situation. Your girlfriend is wrong. It doesn't make you the same as them. They chose to be there and initiate a fight. You chose to defend yourself and your family. Those things are completely different. They had the ability to stop violence from happening by just leaving. You didn't, because if you chose to do nothing or leave, violence still would have happened, but to your mum. They were the ones choosing violence, not you. Am I the a-hole for ruining my sister's proposal by telling everyone the truth? Post by Slutty Daisy. So I, 20 female, was home for Christmas and my sister Kaylee, 26 female, got engaged to her boyfriend Jake, 28 male. It happened during Christmas dinner at my grandma's cabin and everyone was so emotional, tears, clapping, the whole vibe. Except it wasn't as perfect as Kelly made it seem. 2 days before the proposal, Jake came to me freaking out. Turns out Kaylee gave him an ultimatum, propose by the end of the year or she'd leave him. She even bought herself her own ring and handed it to him, telling him to use it. Jake wasn't ready and clearly felt trapped. I told him it sounded super messed up, but he said he doesn't know what else to do. At dinner, Jake got on one knee and Kaylee acted totally shocked. She kept going on and on about how surprised she was. And I couldn't hold it in anymore. I said, surprised? You literally forced him and gave him the ring. Jake looked relieved, but Kaylee started crying and stormed out. Now my whole family is mad at me for ruining her big moment. Jake privately thanked me, but Kaylee won't speak to me. And my mum says that I'm the a-hole for embarrassing her in front of everyone. So, am I the a-hole? Yeah, this is definitely fake, but it's hilarious, so I don't care. Am I the a-hole for telling a coworker he should teach his daughter some tact? I, 32 female, work in an office with my coworker Ken, 40 male, who has a daughter, Esme, 15 female. Ken and I are friendly, we've worked together for years, and over the last year or so, I've been trying to open the door to something romantic. I was being very obvious, but it never went anywhere, and I thought it was because he was clueless. A few weeks ago, Esme came to the office to have lunch with Ken. It was sweet. She was polite to everyone in the office, including me. They visited for about half an hour before I went to take my lunch. I always come in and ask Ken if he wants to join me for lunch, and I knew his daughter would be leaving soon, so I did the same as I always do. He said no, which is no big deal. Sometimes he says no, sometimes he says yes. I asked if he was sure, and he said he was, and I asked, "Are you sure you're sure?" sort of teasingly. His daughter spoke up and said, "He said he's sure," and things got a little awkward. No one said anything, but Ken looked shocked. I said I was just asking, and she told me to take a hint, and then Ken finally told her to stop. She said, and I quote, "It's not my fault she doesn't understand at her big age." I ended up crying. We didn't talk for a while, and I steered clear of him. Last week, I finally talked to him about it. He apologized, and we talked a little more openly about stuff. Ken hasn't dated since his divorce 11 years ago, and he doesn't plan to. He said he's been happily uninvolved since then, and he doesn't want that to change anytime soon, if ever. He told me he knows I'm interested, but he doesn't return the feelings. We're okay. It was an adult conversation, and all went well. This is where things turned sour. I told him I understood, and I apologized for pushing, and I asked why his daughter treated me the way she did. He apologized, but said she was protective of his choices. She knew that he wasn't interested in anyone, and he'd expressed his discomfort around my flirting to his family. I told him that that still wasn't validation for how she spoke to me, and that he needed to teach her some tact, as ultimately, I'm someone being rejected by the person I had feelings for. She should have been polite and treated me with empathy. It was like his mood changed on the spot. He started talking about how he prides himself on being a single father and raising a strong, intelligent daughter. I apologized immediately for offending him and said I just felt like she was brash. He ended the conversation and we haven't spoken since. Lately, I've noticed some people giving me the cold shoulder. Finally, I asked a friend what's up, and she told me that some people thought it was wrong of me to have said that to Ken. I left it alone and figured it'd blow over, but I've had this nagging feeling in my stomach since then. I think a part of me is looking for some reassurance, or maybe just laying it out in front of me to be clear in my head. I think I just need an outsider's perspective. Well, you're not gonna like it. How do you write all this out and still think, yep, I'm the victim here? You've been sexually harassing this poor man for a year, to the point where he actually vents to his family about it. Yet you think his daughter standing up for him and telling him to back off is rude? It wasn't cute to come interrupt his lunch with his daughter the first time. And apparently someone had to say something, since you still didn't get the hint after the second and third rejection. He's not the one that's clueless, lady. Just leave this poor man alone. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my sister move in after she called the cops on me over my car? Post by Mixed Crystal. I, 20 female, have been living on my own for about 2 years. When I first moved out, my dad gave me his old car to help me get around. It wasn't in great shape, but he said as long as I covered the insurance and repairs, it was mine. Over the past 2 years, I've put a lot of money into keeping it running, so it feels very much like my car at this point. Last week, my older sister Anna, 21 female, asked if she could move in with me temporarily because she broke up with her boyfriend and has nowhere else to go. I was hesitant because we've never been super close, but I agreed. Family is family, right? But 2 days later, I got a call from the police saying my car has been reported as stolen. I was in total shock. After a long, stressful back and forth, I found out that it was Anna who reported me. Apparently, she'd called my dad first, trying to guilt him into taking my car back so that she could have it. When that didn't work, she went straight to the cops, claiming I had stolen it. Well, that's an interesting choice. She begged for a favor from someone that she's not even that close with because she had nowhere else to go, then pulls a stunt like this? Okay. Luckily, my dad backed me up and cleared up everything with the police. But it was embarrassing and scary to even be in that situation. When I confronted Anna, she admitted it, but said, I didn't think it would go that far, and just wanted to teach you a lesson about sharing. Are you kidding me? I told her there's no way she's moving in after pulling something like that. But now she's blowing up my phone, calling me selfish and immature, and even got some family members involved. They're saying I need to be the bigger person because she's going through a tough time, But I feel like letting her move in would be insane after this. Am I being too harsh? Not the a-hole. You're just teaching her a lesson about not biting the hand that feeds her. Am I the a-hole for refusing to apologise to my dad's wife because she felt let down that I didn't make a grand gesture of embracing / accepting her at their wedding? Posted by Kadesh Lee. My mum died when I, 21 female, was 12. My dad met his wife when I was 15, and they got married when I was 16. Not gonna lie, the day was kinda hard for me. It wasn't easy seeing my dad marry someone who wasn't my mum. But I loved him, so I made sure to smile and keep the sadness away from the day where I could. Still, my dad knew, and he didn't push me to be more involved than I was. The wedding was small and low-key anyway, so there was nothing huge for me to do anyway. Up until a couple of weeks ago, everyone thought the day had been a success. But during a celebration to remember my mum, my dad's wife brought up a grudge that she'd held against me for not making more of a grand gesture of embracing / accepting her as part of the family and a mother figure at the wedding. Apparently she thought I'd planned something for the day that would make her feel welcome and wanted by me and like she was loved. She'd convinced herself this would happen and was let down that it hadn't, but even worse, that I didn't say anything to her about it after their wedding. She first brought it up as a throwaway comment about grand gestures for others not being my thing when I made something for my mother's grave. Dad asked her what she meant, but she was like, "Oh, nothing." She said nothing, and I was confused by it too, but we moved on. Then, when we were having dinner, those of us who knew Mum said something about her. I told Mum that I'd always love her and miss her, and I wish she was here and could see the woman I became. Then, Dad's wife made a more direct comment that clearly I can express my love easily enough. Dad asked what she was doing. She said what she'd expected for the wedding, and she was like, clearly OP didn't love me when we got married because she didn't make a point of expressing or showing acceptance of me at the wedding. Then she said that she'd expected some kind of grand gesture of acceptance and love because she was becoming my new mother figure, and I thought I'd be glad to have someone else for the girl stuff. Dad asked where all this was coming from, and she had admitted that she'd held it against me since the wedding. Later, when it was just me and her, she told me I could apologise, and it would start to make up for it. I told her there should have been zero expectation for me to do anything like that, and I wasn't apologising for something I never agreed to, or even suggested I do. Then she was all like, "So, you still don't love me?" I grew frustrated and told her that she had way too high expectations for what I'd do for her, and I pointed out that I'd only known her for a few months when she married my dad. Her grudge has now grown because I didn't do the grand gesture, and I didn't apologise years later. She says I'm disrespecting her, and disrespecting her and my dad's marriage. Am I the a-hole? This isn't a thing. Isn't it more normal for someone marrying someone with kids for them to make the big gesture towards the kids? Like including them in the wedding or making vows to the kids, etc.? I've seen that, but I've never heard about it going the other way. What a weird expectation! You're the one adopting the kid, you weirdo! And doing all that during the mum's memorial celebration? What the hell? That's so disrespectful! Hope the dad shut this down. Doesn't sound like it though, or OP wouldn't seriously be asking if she's the a-hole. Am I the a-hole for refusing to wear a skimpy maid outfit to an exclusive party my friend got invited to? Posted by Professional Donut 296. So I, 22 female, live with my friend, also 22, and she recently met a guy at a beach party. She's pretty much obsessed with him because he comes from a well-known, well-off family in the area and has a certain level of status associated with him. She told me they were sort of dating, and obviously I've been supportive throughout all of it, as a friend. However, I've met him a few times and I don't exactly hold a favourable opinion of him. I didn't tell my friend because I wasn't fully sure of my views yet and I didn't want to be negative. Anyway, he's throwing a party soon and invited my friend. He asked her to bring me along as well. He said it was a themed party and that everyone would be assigned a character / style to wear. He sent my friend a picture of our outfits, two skimpy as hell maid costumes sprawled on a bed. I immediately told her that I was not wearing that, especially not to a party with a bunch of strangers. Initially, she thought I was kidding, but then understood that I was serious. She said that wearing these outfits isn't a big deal, and that I need to stop being so prudish and serious. I told her that it's very humiliating that this guy thinks it's perfectly fine to request 2 women to wear that to his party. Like, you're seriously asking 2 girls who are clearly not as rich as you to dress up as maids to your party? I asked her if she seriously sees nothing wrong with it, and she said no. She explained that he just has weird taste and that it might be a weird rich people thing. I told her again, I will not be wearing some skimpy little maid costume. Not only is it embarrassing, but it's extremely disrespectful to me because I don't have any sort of meaningful relationship with this guy, and yet he thought it was appropriate to include me in this request. I told her that I won't be wearing the clothes, I won't be going to the party, and from now on, will avoid her new boyfriend altogether. We had a massive argument, and she said that I'm being lame, boring, and not a supportive friend. She said that instead of helping her, I'm ruining everything and being a killjoy. When she told the guy that I'm refusing to participate, he even asked her if getting paid for it would change my mind. Oh my god. That makes it even worse. Apparently, he told her that I have the right attitude, which makes no sense because I've been combative this whole time, and that his friends would love to get to know me. The F! I'm just getting angry typing this. I was pretty upset and told my dad about the situation. The party's tomorrow night, and my friend decided to go alone, and she's not really talking to me right now. Am I the a-hole, or is she? I feel strangely guilty, even though I'm just standing up for my boundaries. You realize you're not actually invited as a guest, right? You're just there as party favors for the boys. I would say he was cheap, not paying for his party's entertainment, but scratch that. He even offered to pay! Oh my god! Not the a-hole. I hope your friend wisens up soon. Am I the a-hole for turning up at the house that my partner's car was at when he told me that he was going to be somewhere else? Post by Acceptable Tap 25. Me and this man had been together for just over 3 years. I suspected nothing. He told me he was going over to one of his guy friend's houses, a guy friend who I knew and whose house I knew. He left, and around 2 hours later, my friend texted me saying, "Who does partner know who lives on X Street?" I said, "As far as I'm aware, no one. Why?" She told me his car was parked in the driveway of a house on a certain street in our town. So he clearly wasn't at his friend's house. I don't know if this is psycho behavior, but I asked her for the address and I went over there. I don't know why I didn't text him first or something to see if he'd lie. Maybe he and his friend just went over to another person's house. But as soon as my friend said that, I just got into my car and went to see if it was really his car. It was. I sat down on the street and then texted him asking if he was having a good time. He messaged back immediately and said that he was, and that he and his friend were building his new PC together. So I instantly knew that he was lying. I went over to the house and knocked on the door. A woman answered. I have no idea who she was, but I could tell by the way her face dropped that she knew exactly who I was. I kept it together and just said, "Tell him his stuff will be on my front lawn when he wants to come and get it," and then I left. Another hour passed and he came home while I was gathering up his things. He had the nerve to instantly go off on me, telling me that going there was psycho and that I was crazy for pulling that stunt. I didn't say anything, I just carried on gathering up his things. He kept telling me to stop, and I didn't. He got in front of me and said, "Stop!" That's when I lost it. I shoved him away from me and started crying. I told him to get his stuff and get out. I then locked myself in my office and waited for him to leave. This happened last night. Some of his things are still here. He didn't take much. Seems he just took a bunch of his clothes and his toiletries. I haven't heard from him, and I haven't texted him either. But was I the a-hole for turning up to this house that he was at? Of course not. He's just a classic cheater, trying to turn everything around on you. The best comment, whatever he left, lightly spray it with milk. Just a fine mist over all his stuff. Box it up and have him come get it. You weren't crazy for showing up. He lied to you and got caught. End of story. You wouldn't have shown up if he wasn't lying and sneaking around. Am I the a-hole for breaking up with my girlfriend on the spot and kicking her out? Post by Credana. I had been with my girlfriend for about a year and a half. We lived together, things were going well, or so I thought. Then, a few nights ago, she tells me she wants to talk. She sits me down and says she's been thinking about opening up the relationship. I asked her what she meant, and she straight up said that she wanted to see other people while still being with me. She said she loves me, but doesn't want to feel like she's missing out on life experiences. I told her that I'm not into that, never have been and never will be. She tried to keep talking about it, like maybe we could just try it for a little while. I told her if that's what she wants, then we're done. I helped her pack a bag and told her to stay at a friend's place for now. Now she's telling people that I kicked her out for having a conversation, and some mutuals are saying that I overreacted. A couple of them are calling me controlling and said I should have at least talked it through instead of just breaking up with her on the spot. Not the a-hole for breaking up on the spot, but he kicked her out immediately? Opie said they live together, so does she pay rent? Are they both on the lease? Even if both are no, still the a-hole and still illegal in most places. Somehow everyone keeps ignoring this fact and saying not the a-hole, but Opie is so the a-hole here that it's a literal crime. Don't blame me for dumping her, but gotta give people notice. Am I the a-hole for not skipping a work trip because my husband is recovering from a hair transplant? Posted by Kibu964. My husband flew overseas for a hair transplant. We have 2 children under 7. I work full-time in a stressful corporate role. He never plans or researches in advance. I'm supposed to go on a work trip for a 2-day work planning retreat. It's important exposure. He will be post-op for 3 days by the time I leave. Last night he said that he needed me to cancel my trip because he's recovering from surgery. I need to put him first, and I'm going to be beyond mad if you do this to me, and don't put me first this one time I'm asking. And if I go, he won't take the kids to school. His head may be sore and bald, but it should not impede a pickup and drop off. My trip has been planned for about 6 months. His main gripe is that he doesn't want to be seen so close to the surgery. He didn't even need to choose to stay, and up until yesterday, this was the plan. He told me my trip is stupid. I usually do put everyone else first, but I really don't think I need to stay home and miss something so important for this. And I also think it's selfish to be saying this to me. I'm always the one impacted by his last minute changes and impulses. I am supportive of him doing something that makes him feel better about himself, but why should I miss out on my trip because he suddenly booked his surgery last minute? Am I being selfish, or is he being selfish? So, clearly not the a-hole. This wasn't an emergency surgery. He knew about your important work trip well in advance, and he was able to fly home from overseas by himself. But the real question is he just being a selfish baby? Or is this like kinda sus? Why did he book this impromptu cosmetic surgery right before her essential work trip? Was he intentionally trying to sabotage it? Obviously, we don't have enough info from the post to know for sure, but what do you guys think? Is he being sus or is he being silly? Anyways, that's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. Have an amazing rest of your day. Bye!